What do a German cobbler, a visionary track coach, a determined mother, a high fashion disruptor, and a new breed of entrepreneurial resellers all have in common? They've each left an indelible mark on the world of sneakers, shaping the culture in ways you might not expect. From the creation of the first spiked running shoes to the billion-dollar resale market, these figures have redefined what it means to wear and collect sneakers. Stick around as we dive into the stories of those who've turned sneakers into a global phenomenon, this time on Fire Footwear. Welcome to Fire Footwear, everybody. As always, I'm your host, Matt Frates, and I hope that this finds you well. Today, we're continuing our look at things that have fundamentally changed the sneaker game, and we're diving into the stories of individuals who have fundamentally changed sneaker culture. These are the visionaries, the pioneers, and the game changers, all of whom have left an indelible mark on the sneaker world. We have done this so far by looking at sneaker models, and we've looked at sneaker models that have not only changed the game, but have also influenced the game. And so in continuing down the changing the game path, we are going to look at people, because without the people, there aren't the sneakers that make up sneaker culture. And so I think that it's important for us to look at the people behind these companies, behind these shoes, because without them, we wouldn't be talking about this today. And so first off, we have Adolf Adi Dassler, the man behind the legendary brand Adidas. Born in Germany in 1900, Dassler started making sports shoes in his mother's wash kitchen after returning from World War I. So sneakers are long in the past from just Jordan Brand in 1985. In 1924, he and his brother Rudolph, also known as Rudy, teamed up to form the Dassler Brothers Shoe Factory. The innovation that Adolf brought to sports footwear was revolutionary, introducing specialized shoes for different sports, and we've talked about that before with Adidas. But what really cemented his legacy was the 1936 Berlin Olympics. Adi convinced American sprinter Jesse Owens to wear his handmade spikes, and Jesse Owens went on to win 4 gold medals during a very raucous time in Germany. You're talking about a black man winning gold medals during the height of Nazi Germany. That's pretty incredible, and it certainly put Adidas on the map. This not only showcased the performance of Dassler's shoes, but also highlighted the power of athlete endorsements, which is a strategy that would become a cornerstone of sneaker marketing. We've seen that all over the place since then. Adidas continued to innovate with iconic models like the Superstar, the Stan Smith, and those have become timeless classics. Eventually, the brothers had a falling out, and the brother Rudy ended up creating Puma, so obviously that's a huge step in sneaker culture. However, Adi Dassler's vision and his relentless pursuit of quality laid the foundation for Adidas to become a global powerhouse in sports and lifestyle footwear. They are easily the number 2 brand in the world. I think their association with soccer has certainly given them a leg up on Nike in certain places. And without Adi Dassler's influence, Adidas would not be what they are today, and the sneaker market might not be what they are today. Next, we're going to turn our attention to Phil Knight, and you know him as the co-founder of Nike. Phil Knight's journey began with a simple idea during his time at Stanford. That was to import high-quality, low-cost running shoes from Japan to the American market. In 1964, he and his coach, Bill Bowerman, the creator of the Waffle Racer outsole, founded Blue Ribbon Sports, and we talked about that a couple weeks ago. They later turned that into Nike. Knight's genius wasn't just in selling shoes, but it was also in branding and marketing them. The launch of the Air Jordan line in 1985, endorsed by then NBA rookie Michael Jordan, revolutionized the sneaker industry. The Air Jordan 1 wasn't just a shoe, it was a true cultural phenomenon. The bold design and rebellious marketing strategy, coupled with Jordan's rising star, it made it a must-have item, and it still is to this day. Phil Knight's ability to blend sports, fashion, and culture through strategic endorsements and innovative marketing turned Nike into the global icon it is today. There is no doubt that Nike is one of the, if not the most recognizable brand in the world. The swoosh logo and the phrase "just do it" became synonymous with aspiration and achievement. It solidified Nike's place at the pinnacle of sneaker culture. One can argue that without Phil Knight, sneaker culture, and by extension this podcast, certainly wouldn't exist. And we talked about another shoe within Phil Knight's biography there, and that shoe is not made possible without this next person. And our next figure might surprise some listeners, and that is Dolores Jordan. Yes, Dolores Jordan, Michael Jordan's mother. She played a pivotal role in the birth of the Air Jordan brand. When Michael was first approached by Nike, he was hesitant to sign with them. He preferred Adidas or Converse. but it was Dolores, his mom, who convinced him to take the meeting and ultimately to sign the deal with Nike. Her influence didn't stop there though. She was instrumental in negotiating terms, and that would give Michael a significant stake in the sales of his signature line, which was a groundbreaking move at the time. This deal not only changed the financial landscape for athletes, but it also established the Air Jordan as a revolutionary product line, and that product line bridged the gap between sports and fashion. That happened in 1985, and it still is happening today. Her foresight and her business acumen helped shape the sneaker industry's approach to athlete endorsements and brand collaborations, and that made the Air Jordan a cultural icon for all time. Now I want to talk about another person who has had an influence on sneakers, but a different one, and that is Virgil Abloh. And his name is synonymous with blending streetwear with high fashion, and we've talked about him many times in this podcast. Virgil was the founder of Off-White and the artistic director of Louis Vuitton's menswear, and that redefined what sneakers could be at the time. In 2017, Virgil collaborated with Nike and released the 10, and that was a collection that deconstructed and reimagined 10 iconic Nike sneakers. Each design featured his signature style elements, and that was exposed stitching, Off-White's signature zip tie, and also text labels. And this collaboration was a game changer. It merged the worlds of streetwear, high fashion, and sneaker culture. Virgil Abloh's influence extended beyond just design. He brought a new level of storytelling and artistic expression to sneakers. His work challenged traditional boundaries, and it inspired a new generation of sneaker enthusiasts and designers. And those people viewed sneakers as more than just footwear, but as a form of art and cultural commentary. And this was so evident in that series and has been so evident since. Since the 10 though, more and more brands considered high fashion have put their design elements on sneaker models that have been embraced by the culture. And in my opinion, the best example of this influence can be seen on the Dior Jordan 1 High. Virgil's influence, even in death, will be felt for a very, very long time. And I know that people will say that maybe Off-White has fallen off since his death, but that's not the point. It's the impact that he had. And I think when you say a name that just captures everything that was changing the game, Virgil Abloh's name is that. And even though he's not with us today, his influence is still felt all throughout sneakers, and it will be felt that way for a very, very long time, maybe even until the end of sneaker culture as we know it. Lastly, we can't talk about change without delving into the impact of sneaker resellers on the culture. And yes, this is not one specific person, but it is really a culture. The rise of the sneaker resale market really has transformed how sneakers are bought and sold even today. Resellers have turned limited edition releases into high-stakes commodities, and that created a secondary market that really thrives on scarcity and demand. Resale culture has had a profound effect on sneaker culture. On one hand, it has provided universal access for rare and coveted sneakers. It allows enthusiasts like myself around the world to really acquire these pairs that they might never find at retail. On the other hand, it has driven up prices and really created a competitive, sometimes cutthroat market for sneakers, and we saw that during the height of the pandemic. Platforms like StockX and GOAT, they've really legitimized and streamlined the resale process. They've made it easier for both buyers and sellers. It's really not up for debate. Sneaker resellers, though, have become influential players in this industry. They have shaped trends, and they are driving the markets in new directions, and they have done so since the advent of StockX and GOAT, and it has only continued to happen. Resale culture really has cooled down, though, and I think compared to what it was at its peak, but I think that the effects are still seen today, and you see it with the most hype releases. Resale has forever changed the game, and I don't think that it's ever going to go away, and I think that it will always exist because we as an American culture specifically love to scalp things. If you think all the way back to scalping tickets or whatever, if you look at StubHub, you just look at everything that goes on a market for resale. I think resale culture had an influence on sneakers, but it's had an influence on our entire society, and I think that you cannot talk about changing the game in terms of sneaker culture without talking about resale, because it fundamentally changed the way that a vast majority of people that are involved in the culture look at it. And I would argue that they actually look at it a lot differently. I think a lot of people look at sneakers as purely commodities, and I think that there are other people who see what the resale culture has done, and they have dipped out of the game because it's just a little bit too rich for their blood. Those are the people that I believe have fundamentally changed sneaker culture. You may disagree with them, and that's okay. And I'm going to give you a way to get in touch with me so that you can tell me what you think or who you think are people that changed the game. But before we get into that, as always, we are going to get into the release of the week. Release of the week, where I like to highlight a shoe that catches my eye. It's not always hype. This week, it probably kind of is. It's just something that I want you to know about. And we are going to go to the Air Jordan line this time, and we are going to highlight the J Balvin Air Jordan 3 Rio colorway. This is the black version of the shoe that came out last year. A lot of people sneaker of the year. A lot of people loved it. Personally, I believe that the white colorway is better. I'm not a huge fan of black on the Air Jordan 3. I know that that's sacrilegious. But if this is something for you and this is something that you want to have in your collection because you weren't able to get the white colorway, it releases on May 22nd on sneakers here in the United States for $250 US. I do believe that it's going to release in Europe as well. If this is something that you want, this is the time to get it. It's going to be very hard to get, and I would assume that it won't be as high resale-wise as the white colorway, but I do believe that it will be high, so make sure you try to get it in any way that you can. If not, you're going to have to go to those resale markets that we talked about. And there you have it, folks. A look at some of the most influential figures who have fundamentally changed sneaker culture. From Adi Dassler's early innovations to Phil Knight's marketing genius to Dolores Jordan's savvy negotiations, each of these people and each of these entities that I've talked about has really left an indelible mark on the sneaker world. There is no denying it. These individuals, these movements, they've not only shaped the industry, but they've also influenced fashion, sports, pop culture, and they've done so in really a profound way. And as we move forward in sneakers, it's fascinating to see how these legacies are going to continue to evolve and how they're going to continue to inspire new generations. Now, admittedly, that goes counter to what I said about Michael Jordan a few episodes ago, but hey, we're not all perfect. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode this week. It makes me very, very happy to know that people are made happy by this content. And I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into these iconic figures. And honestly, if you've never heard of some of these people, I assume you have. But if you haven't, I hope that you learned something. Please don't forget to subscribe. Please don't forget to leave a review. Share the episode with other sneaker people that you know. It's not something that I ask you to do too often, but we have seen some growth in this podcast over the last year, and I'd like to continue that trend. I'd love to make the Fire Footwear community as large as possible so that you can continue to have an avenue to talk about sneakers with somebody like me who hopefully feels like a friend for you. Stay tuned for our next episode where we're going to dive into people who have heavily influenced the culture. This was about people who have fundamentally changed it, and I think that there are a lot more people who have had an influence on sneaker culture over the years. Until then, I hope this finds everybody well. I hope this finds everybody safe, and I will talk to you next time. This is Fire Footwear. Follow us on social media for more updates and behind-the-scenes content. We'll catch you next time on Fire Footwear. The opinions and viewpoints expressed on Fire Footwear are those of Matt Frates and his guests, and not necessarily those of the Matty Ice Media Network. Fire Footwear is exclusively owned by Matt Frates and is brought to you by the Matty Ice Media Network.